Welcome to this new Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie, we're gonna look at the release notes of Sim Update number 15, the second beta build. Unfortunately, the Airbus A320 V2, created by Ini Buildings, is still not back in the package, but it was kind of expected because Sobo already mentioned that there's a small chance that it will be returned, right? But let's keep our fingers crossed and let's see what happens. So first of all, there's a known issue, and that known issue could have an impact, so be aware of that. So what they're trying to do is continuously adding stability fixes to address the sim crashes which are reported by people, right? And also instances of black avionics. That's also something which they observed. So they're making changes which are comprehensive to improve these features, but that will introduce some new issues. So if you look at the release notes, which mention that it will be bumped up to version 1.37.4.0, they say the known issues are the aircraft with floats are unable to take off, land on water. So even though they should be able to land on water, you can't do it. As well as the reverse thrust is not functioning on certain aircrafts. I would say it's a little bit unclear which aircrafts they specifically mean, but if you're experiencing issues with that, then be aware of that. Then the last one is when launching a glider, releasing the winch causes the sim to crash. So be careful when you're using the glider in combination with the winch, because then Flight Simulator might become very unstable. Of course, they tried to fix everything as they mentioned in the below statement before the update releases GA, right? General availability. Continuing with the general bug fixes, they're still working on the crashes fixes across the title, which is good. They're also working on the frames per second display memory usage. Now displays allocated virtual memory rather than the used physical memory pages. This is likely only if you enable the developer mode, and in the developer mode you can enable certain diagnostics to be shown right on the top left, and I think it is related to that. Then they fixed an issue where the model matching the AI traffic would spawn more than usual non-optimized traffic models, resulting in performance and memory regression, as well as they fixed an issue that could cause a white circle to appear during gameplay. This one, I would say, was reported a while back also. They thought that they fixed it, but it looks like they still have some issues with this white circle. In addition to that, they've got improvements to reduce the probability of avionics randomly turning off on the Xbox, so a specific fix for the Xbox, as well as they fix some localization bugs, right? Those translation bugs. If we go to the navigation and traffic section, we will find that they fixed some nav data packages not correctly loaded. Likely that also has been fixed in combination with the RAC cycle, which has been released yesterday, as well as they fixed the achievements for live events which were not correctly shown. Going to the cockpits, they changed the parameters of the glass cockpit specifically to update the logic to keep the refresh more fluid in a lower frame rate situations. There were some issues reported that on low frame rate, those, I would say, meters, right, or gouges were not showing, I would say, very nicely, or were not animated very nicely. They now fixed that by implementing this fix. For the Garmin G3000 and G5000, they also have two fixes. One of them is they fix an issue where the LNAV could compute the incorrect guidance in certain situations with low bank mode active. Right, the low bank mode is I would say, the turn angle the aircraft can make. Right, you can define it by turning, I would say, a small button, and that's now being fixed because it could cause some issues with the LNAV. As well as the HSI to from indicator now displays the correct indication while the active navigation source is FMS instead of always indicating TO, right? So the HSI meter, right, or display, which you could see, there you can see if you're flying to the beacon or away from the beacon as a navigation source. So that's now being fixed. Then for the Garmin G3X Touch, which is, I would say, the brand new, right? I also already posted a video about that. They added some new features in addition to the ones which were already available. So first of all, they added the active flight plan displays to the maps on the MFD nearest pages, the MFD traffic page, the MFD waypoint page, and the direct to page. In addition to that, they added the ability to toggle the standard turn rate bank angle pointers on the PFD roll indicator, so you can now change it on the PFD, as well as they added the ability to configure the layout of the ComNav radio buttons, audio panel button, and transponder button on the CNS data bar by new options in the display setup and data bar setup menus. So likely we'll post a video about that soonish once we had a look at it. Then there were also some bug fixes, and I would say I would say a lot, right? But that's kind of expected when you completely rebuild, I would say, a cockpit. In this case, the Garmin G3X Touch, right, which is a navigation system. So they fixed a bug where the attempting to remove or activate a flight plan lag in the MFD flight panel will now trigger a confirmation dialog, right? So previously it would simply delete it, but now it will simply ask for confirmation. The load approach button in the select approach dialog is now disabled if loading an approach would also automatically activate the approach. Also nice. And they have fixed a similar issue with the select approach dialog. Within an approach already loaded activated, the selected airport will no longer be initialized to the last airport in the flight plan unless it's also the last waypoint overall in the flight plan. So it looked like that they changed some logic. Let's say when you select an approach, right, it will add, of course, multiple waypoints. And in some scenarios, it will no longer be initialized to the last airport in the flight plan. So the recap, the selected airport will no longer be initialized to the last airport in the flight plan, unless it's also the last waypoint overall in the flight plan. So that's cool. Then they fixed an issue with opening the direct to menu, right, which you can use to directly fly to a specific waypoint from the MFD FPL page. Will now initialize the direct to menus selected waypoints to the focused waypoint in the MFD FPL page, if one exists, right? So the MFD FPL page is described here. They also fixed some issues there, and that, I would say, makes it easier to use that navigation. Then the CDI scaling now uses the correct VFR values when navigating using the internal flight plan, as well as they fixed an issue where the PFD bearing information displays were not visible. That happened with me also. I couldn't see the PFD bearing information, but it's now fixed. So cool to see. As well as they fixed an issue where the HDI to from indicator was rendering beneath the course deviation indicator instead of above it. I would say that was probably for someone who knows this system in and out. I would say probably someone like that report this issue, because I wouldn't see it, but I'm also not a real expert on this piece. Then they also fixed an issue where the HDI2 from indicator was not displaying when the CDI source was set to GPS. That's one I observed. And also they fixed the display of vertical mode actuations in the PFD AFCS status box, right? So they fixed some issues with that. Last thing was they fixed the missing font characters for certain measurements unit types. So if you change the measurement unit types, it was not showing all the information. So that's now being fixed. Then going to the Garmin GS 430W and 530W, they fixed an issue where the flight plan page would not display the flight plan if the GNS was configured to use a non-default flight planner ID. Not sure what they, I would say, mean with that, but likely something which is non-default. But what's non-default? I don't have an ID. Going to the aircrafts. First of all, there's an improvement to the ground handling and ground collision physics to the C-172 and the Cabri G2, right, an aircraft and a helicopter, as well as they made a helicopter fix which improved the functionality of multi-engine helicopter governors and engine trimmers. There's some specific information for in the SDK about. So likely this is more for developers than, let's say, for us as simmers. Then the Boeing 747 also received an update. They say here 78710 and 747, but only for the 747. They fixed an issue where the engine gen control lights would flicker off on full engine power because of the engine combustion issues caused by fuel starvation. I think this was also mentioned as a fix in the previous beta version. As well as they adjusted the pressurize of the stabilizer tank pumps to prevent the center tank from emptying during transfer. Nice. Last one, they tuned the engine model for more realistic idle RPM and ITT, right? ITT is the temperature for the exhaustion. And there's a known issue in low frame rate situations in the fly-by-wire and auto throttle works less reliable. So keep this in mind. Then the helicopter, the Cabri G2, right? So they fixed an issue that could cause the engine off to fail to start when using the auto start key of the Cabri G2. The Cup crafters, both of them, the NX Cup and the X Cup, also received some updates. And you can see that I would say they're exactly the same, right? So they fixed an issue where the MFD engine pace apps gauge was stuck reading 0. And they fixed an issue to where the color of the engine gauge text labels when the gauge value is within a red skill range, as well as a minor formatting issue with the MFD engine page gauges. This would say is kind of expected because these are using the new Garmin Touch G3X Touch. And if we scroll a little bit further, we can see that they also fixed at least one of the items in the GMB, which is also using the same one. Then for those who use the house art race ornithopter, really, I would say something you should try, really cool. They fixed the landing gear initialization during RTC when starting the mission from the runway in free flight, and they fixed the landing gear animation bug when touching the ground with raised landing gear. As last thing, they fixed also something with the gear state, which is now being properly displayed in multiplayer mode. So again, some interesting fixes for several aircrafts and a helicopter. And I would say several nice fixes for the Garmin G3X and some minor fixes for the G3000. Uh, looking at general fixes, I think most of them, I would say, are kind of common, right? A lot of crash fixes, but in this case also fix for the AI traffic, which they're working on to improve it. So that's cool. With this, we're at the end of this video where we looked at the release notes of Sim Update 15 Beta, release notes 1.37.4.0, which is the latest beta release. It's the second beta release of this Sim Update. So let's see when we can expect the next one. Likely it's within a week because that's mostly the release cycle. So that's really cool. Here ends this video. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new videos I'm posting, then make sure that you're subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.